Welcome to another episode of The Ship It Show. I'm Matt Halverson, Head of Content for Soto, and I'm joined today by Mark Mucha, Principal Software Engineer at a major Seattle tech company. And we're talking about mentorship, why it's so important to the software industry. You've been doing it, you were telling me earlier, you've been doing it for at least 7 years now. Is that right?
Yeah, at least 7 years, for sure.
So why, I mean, that's a pretty big time investment. Why is it so important to you? Why have you been doing it for so long?
Well, I mean, initially when I started way back early in my career, I was doing it to kind of alleviate some pain that I had working with certain people. I was trying to get the team that I was working on to be a cohesive team, to kind of mimic more of the military type teams I was on when I was in the military. Okay. Lockheed, it kind of made sense doing stuff like that. But eventually I started becoming more interested in improving humans overall. So that was my motivation probably about 7 years ago. And yeah, it's really just that. I like to see people grow, I like to see people get better, and it became more of a human interest thing instead of a work outcome issue for me. Or 7 years ago.
Or moving from a selfish thing to more of an altruistic thing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. What do you, I mean, you've been doing it for so long, you got a lot of experience with it. What do you typically find that you end up helping your mentees with? What are they coming to you for?
Every mentee has different needs, and that's one of the things that, initially I wasn't really thinking about early on in my career. I was more of a prescriptive checklist type of guy. It's like, Here's a checklist, follow this checklist, and you'll be good.
Right.
But everybody has different needs. Some people are looking for career growth. Some people are looking to feel a little more comfortable within their team and not feel like imposters. Some people are looking at just making sure that they don't get booted out of the company. So, I mean, it depends on people. Some people are just looking for somebody to talk to. But I've filled all those needs at one point or another, and sometimes my mentoring relationships will kind of change over time to be one of those different types of mentoring relationships, but it varies by mentee, for sure.
Do you find that people at different stages in their career are looking for different things, like someone who's just out of college versus someone who's been in the industry for 5-10 years?
Yeah, definitely. So people out of college, I think, often have a picture of what they think software development will be like.
And what is that picture?
Well, that picture is like, hey, I get to work on cool things, solve hard problems, and there's all these interesting technology, pieces of technology, and do all these interesting things. And I think, professional work life isn't necessarily as exciting as people build up in their mind. So getting people off of their dreamy software development state and getting them into the real world is one of the things that I focus on. It's like, hey, that's great that you like these things and this new technology. Let's convert this passion and energy you have into something that's going to be useful as a junior developer at a software company. So,
but doing that delicately so we don't crush their dreams.
Exactly.
Right?
You don't want to crush people's dreams, obviously. Yeah. You don't want to run them off. You don't want to kill the dream of Santa Claus or the idea of Santa Claus right away. You want to let them kind of, feel that way and gradually let them come into, the working environment that they have to actually succeed at to stay at the company. For software engineers that are in the middle part of that time span, a lot of times it's taking somebody that has grown to be a productive member of a team. Mm-hmm. They're producing a lot of good output to actually look at what outputs they're producing and how they associate or how they are tied to business needs and desires. And sometimes, as a intermediate software developer or junior software developer, you have to kind of figure out like, hey, do I build a technical solution for this or do I just not build it?
Right.
And a lot of times, that's the thing that makes a difference, or that's the key piece that makes a difference between a senior engineer and a junior engineer. Is when do I build a technical solution? When do I just leverage something that exists that isn't shiny, flashy, and exciting? But maybe it makes more sense for the business, and I think that getting people to think about business needs is what I focus on for intermediate engineers. But
Gotcha.
I've also mentored up.
Oh yeah.
I've mentored managers. I've mentored people that are higher than me now.
Yeah.
And that's useful too. I like helping people at all levels and all experience levels. So
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, given how long you've been doing this, I'm sure you've mentored a ton of people. And you got to have some kind of good success story. Somebody who's maybe even doing better than you are now.
Yeah, actually, I exactly have a scenario like that. I was on a hiring loop for somebody that was coming out of defense. I was assigned their onboarding buddy or their on-hire mentor at a company to help them get adjusted to the culture at this new company. It's another major tech company in Seattle.
Yeah.
Ended up building a mentoring relationship around just getting them onboarded, but that mentoring relationship persisted up until actually today. We're still meeting regularly, but now it's more of a mutual mentoring relationship. He mentors me, I mentor him, but he's actually way above me now, level-wise.
Yeah,
He's doing way better than me, making more money than me, and he's excelled beyond what I ever imagined he'd be capable of. But actually, I don't want to sell him short. I thought he could do all of this. I just didn't know it would happen so quickly.
Right.
But yeah, now he's at least a couple levels above me, and I don't know how much more money he's making than me, but
this has to be so rewarding for you to see
It is.
people like that succeed after the
Sure.
work that you've put in.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I get out of mentoring, and it's right now it's probably my major thing. A lot of times now, I'm mentoring people that aren't on my team, so I don't get an immediate benefit from mentoring these people. The only benefit I get is by helping them achieve what they want to achieve, helping them grow as people, as engineers. And that's one of the things that I think 7 years ago, when I moved to the major tech company in Seattle, that was one of the key differences. Is my mentoring was on my team, but I also started mentoring people off my team.
Gotcha.
And that's where I had started to gain a little more empathy for people and what they were dealing with, and started to understand the differences, and started to understand that, hey, this isn't just a prescriptive like checklist type thing. This is something I have to actually put a lot more effort in to connect with the human that's on the other side. They're not just an engineer, and not every engineer is like me, for instance. So.
Well, you bring up empathy. What are some of the qualities that you need in order to be a good mentor?
Well, empathy is definitely probably top of the list. Listening is super important. You sometimes you have to kind of peel the layers of the onion back to figure out what people are actually looking for. You want to find the core of the issue that people are coming to you for mentoring. And then the other thing, sort of listening, empathy, and also you have to have the desire to help people.
I suppose that's pretty obvious, right?
Yeah. Well, it's pretty obvious, but I think it's important to have that as one of your driving goals or driving factors, rather than trying to just get some outcome that you want.
Right.
As a good mentor, and I consider myself a good mentor because I've kept a lot of these mentoring relationships long past when they expired in our mentoring system at my previous company. Some of these relationships have lasted beyond company moves. I have mentees that have moved to multiple companies. I've moved a few times, and we can still keep a relationship going. And a lot of the times I spend talking with these folks is just listening to them, listening to what they're going through. And I'll tell them some stories about what's going on in my life, and or maybe something that was similar to what they are encountering, to kind of connect with them and then figure out a solution, or maybe not a solution necessarily, but give them some options, and hear what they're thinking their options are.
So you've convinced me, or I'm somebody watching right now, and you've convinced me that this is something that I should do or something that I want to do. It sounds interesting. How do I get started? What do I do at my own company?
Well, it's easy if you have a formal mentoring system set up in your company, or if you have a formal mentoring program set up at your company. If you don't, there are a couple ways of doing this. You can get your management on board, convince them that mentoring is important. I think most people will agree that growing people is an important part of the business, but you have to figure out how to connect with management and make sure that, have empathy, figure out what management cares about, and try to connect mentoring to the business objectives. And if mentoring is done the right way, I think you'll get everything that you're wanting from a business standpoint and also from a personal standpoint. The other thing that you can do is, if you don't necessarily have management buy-in, you can kind of do group exercises. Like I set up a reading group at one of my previous companies where we would read papers or books, and I was interested in growing people from that, and I didn't necessarily have business sign off to do that, but we were doing it after hours. But people approached me for mentoring after that because they saw that I was interested in helping people grow and interested in helping people out and just in general. So I think that's important. I think that's one way of getting around hurdles that you may encounter with companies that don't necessarily want to do a formal mentoring program. But I think the important thing is just look for opportunities. I'd say don't force mentoring on people that don't want it. You definitely want to find people that are interested in mentoring. You want to let people know that you're interested in helping, and let people approach you for mentoring, for sure.
Take it slow.
Take it slow, for sure. Yes.
Right on. Well, this is some really great advice. Thanks for coming in, and thanks for sharing it.
All right, thank you.